What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video and some breakdown what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for. I'm also going to talk about some earnings that just came out from our very big companies for after the market closed. I'm going to break down how earnings are looking so far and what you should be watching for on Tesla, SPY, and many other tickers. Before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, so I'm not going to be able to record this video after Tesla's earnings call. I'm going to be trying to watch it and work on other things afterwards. But I am going to talk about the numbers that came out so far and some very important levels to watch for just to be safe. All right, so what numbers just came out? Just as a reminder, we had Tesla's earnings numbers that came out. The call has not started just yet. It's going to take a little bit more time. And so far, looking at the numbers, we beat on revenue, which is good for Tesla. EPS was also a beat. So far, good stuff from Tesla, but the share price is actually very flat. It was down quite a bit and came right back up. So very volatile. Overall, it's kind of just a tiny bit green. What's going to matter more is guidance. So we're going to be waiting for that later on. Now, I want to add that United Airlines beat on EPS and their sales were actually better than expected, which is good for them. Looking at IBM, they ended up beating on EPS and their sales were a little bit lower than expected. And despite that, we have more specific numbers about how their revenue was down about 0.4%. Their gross margins were actually up about they're up about 54.9% right now. So pretty good for them. They're actually up 160 basis points in total. And then we also saw right over here, year to date, the net cash flow from their activities is down 1.8 billion with free cash flow being up. So very strong from IBM so far. Netflix ended up missing on revenue, but they beat on EPS, so kind of mixed. But what's good is their operating margins went from 18 to 20% versus the estimated 19%. So better than expected so far for Netflix. These are the companies that are reporting earnings, by the way. So far, so good. And for tomorrow, we have initial jobless claims coming out before the market opens, but that's not going to be as significant as these earnings. Now let's break down how things are looking. So honestly, guys, I can't really record and upload anything after Tesla's earnings call for today. I will talk more about it tomorrow, but I can talk about some important levels based off what could end up happening. So on SPY, if you want to turn bullish, you want to see this thing break above 456.5. If we get very strong guidance from the markets and the market somehow pumps, it could try to invalidate some bearish signals and try pushing, right? There's always that possibility, so always be open-minded just in case. But looking at the trend, you could see we have these long wicks right here in the market started to weaken, trying to break this level. So that's the reason why I was talking about how there could be some potential downside coming. Now, if we break down, you're going to be watching 454.5 as our support. If that breaks, it's going to come all the way down potentially to about 452.69 or so. That becomes a lot more possible if we do get a break to the downside. So we're going to be watching these levels carefully. Please note we formed this doji on the 4-hour time frame and on the daily chart. This could be a potential sign of weakness looking at this candlestick, but there's no confirmation of the breakdown just yet. It is a real possibility. There is a risk depending on Tesla's earnings and many other companies. Now, for Tesla, it's been pretty wild. And let me just remind you, the whole market will be impacted by these earnings. It basically came down a bit. It dropped very hard to 282. Then it pushed all the way up to 296. Came right back down to about 287. Then it's back to 296. Now it's just going back and forth and back and forth. It's currently up only like 0.3%. Not really that much. So what's going to matter for Tesla's guidance? What does Elon Musk and the team end up saying about their margins, their future, their recession talks, and all that stuff? That is going to be very important for Tesla. If they do very well and there's a lot of optimism, it still could pump up to the 315 plus area. If it's bad, this thing could fall all the way down below 282 to even lower levels. So watch this very carefully. What do I think is more likely? Well, they did beat so far. So far it's looking a little bit more optimistic. But Tesla typically drops after earnings. That's the first thing to remember. And secondly, we have to wait and see what happens with their margins. Their gross margins are going to be very important. Guidance is going to be important. And what Elon Musk says about the potential recession coming is going to be just as important. So guidance is everything for Tesla. We don't know yet. It's going to take a couple of hours before we get all the information. So just wait for that and we will see how it goes. For Apple's trying to base right about here, retesting this 50 EMA. It came down just a little bit before bouncing right back with the market. We're going to wait and see what happens to Apple. It's looking pretty decent right now, trying to hold up. The bulls want to see it break this level right here, this 195 zone, 195.7 around there. Breaking, we're going to be watching 197, then 198.2. The bears want to see this come all the way down to 194. If that fails us, you're going to be watching this thing come all the way down to 193.5 and potentially 192.5. It's looking pretty strong holding up so far, so I do believe it's going to try to hold up, but always remember earnings will have an effect on it. So watch these levels. Like I said before, it's trying to hold up. I think it's going to try to hold above 194, and then we will see what happens after that. But so far, so good after the bullish news that came out. To add on to this, for the triple Q, it is looking a little bit more bearish. It's making lower highs and lower lows, but this will be dictated by Tesla. If we get a big bounce tomorrow in tech, we could see it retest 386, then 387.21, then 388. The bears want to see it test 384 or lower. We're going to be watching this very carefully. In my opinion, it is looking a little bit more bearish. Looking at this trend, it's making lower highs, like I said before. And on the 4-hour time frame, you can see right here we got this bearish cross on the PPO already. So there's an increased probability of this potentially coming down. It could try to bounce a little bit and then end up just dropping a little bit, but it's looking a little bit more bearish than bullish as of right now at the time I am recording this. Okay, so I still think it could try to hold this level for an extended period of time before potentially pulling back. But for extra confirmation, you're going to be watching how does it hold above this 385 level and how are earnings looking. Earnings will dictate how this thing moves too. Don't forget about those. For Nvidia, it was looking pretty decent so far. Let me just mention that on the 30 minutes time frame, it got a nice balance off this 467 area we were talking about not too long ago. If it does break lower hypothetically, if it does I'm just saying this hypothetically based off the levels, if 467 breaks, you're going to be watching it retest 465 and potentially 462 below that. Those are some very important supports. And if those end up failing for it, if it does end up breaking below that, there's going to be 460 as the next important zone. But so far, it's been trying to hold this support right here. Now, if this thing tries to bounce, you're going to be watching 471.5 as resistance. If it breaks that, 475 could come. How is this looking from a technical standpoint? Based off technicals, okay? Let's just ignore earnings. Let's just pretend there's no earnings or anything. Just based off technicals, this is looking bullish to me because we're forming a nice accumulation right here. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders-like structure. And it looks like lots of shares are going to be accumulated right over here. They're going to be buying up as we saw this surge in volume, like a little bit more volume right here before this thing is going to start pushing up to try to make its way up to this imbalance level, up to this like 476 area. So it looks like this thing is going to try to get some upside from a technical standpoint, but it's going to be dictated by earnings for tomorrow. So watch for confirmation. If it gets above 471.5, I'm going to be watching it push once again to 475 tomorrow. If it fails to do so, if it breaks below 467, it's going to come down to 465, then eventually like 462 and potentially even 460 if that ends up being the case. So far, if you look at Tesla, it's very flat, still waiting for the call. So just be patient with that. For Microsoft, we're going to be watching this structure as well. 350 is going to be a major support zone for it. And we also have this like really, really big imbalance down here around this like 344 level. So a break below 350 and this thing is going to come all the way down there. It is looking kind of weak because it made a very big move in a very small period of time. So it doesn't have enough market structure to hold these levels just yet. So we're seeing this break right over here. And we have this imbalance down here around this 344 level. If it breaks 350, I'm going to be watching 344 to be tested potentially. So watch 350 very carefully. Looks like it's going to test it, and we will see how it moves from there. Based off technicals, AMD, it was trying to hold up, and now it's revisiting this support right here on this 115 level. It also formed a nice head and shoulders. I think around 115 it could try to bounce. So I'm going to be looking for a bounce right over there on AMD and a retest of 117. But not a whole lot is going on with it. If it breaks 115, though, it's going to come down to the 113s. If it breaks above 117, however, it's going to make its way up to about 118.5. Now, it is looking like it's kind of stuck between these EMAs, but I am leaning in the direction that it's going to try to get a retest of 115, then a bounce afterwards, and we will see if it could continue to push because the earnings could affect how it moves. Netflix, we're still waiting for guidance. It's only down. It's actually down like 5%. It's not only down. It's up. It's down quite a bit. It got this nice push up in the morning. Looking at the way this thing was pushing, it pushed all the way up to about this 480 area. Then it came down. It bounced off the 50 and it ended up pushing once again until the after hours. And then as earnings came out, we got this pump up to almost 500, and it got this rug pull all the way down to 449. And it's currently at about, at the time I'm recording this, 456. So it's tanking so far. We will see how it moves after earnings come out. And with that said, that's the majority of the stocks for now. I want to keep this one kind of short because, like I said before, we have lots coming out. If Coinbase gets above 110, we're going to be watching 114. If it rejects off this, we're going to be watching it retest 106, 105 after that. And if those fail us, 102.5 to 101.9 could be tested if it breaks below 105. So watch these levels very carefully. There is a potential important level coming on it, and it could get a rejection and make its way down to 105 because it's been very stationary and going back and forth if you notice it. So it may do something very similar once again. There's a slight uptrend, so it's gaining a little bit of strength, but just to be safe, we're going to watch which way it breaks. For Google, it came down to the level I was talking about yesterday, breaking below 123 and getting very close to this 121 area. I could see it drop a little bit more to 121.8 before trying to bounce. If it wants to turn bullish, you have to get above 124 to push up to 125 plus. There's also this imbalance that formed right here around this 124 area. So break above the high of the day, or like this high right over here that formed at the very end. If it gets above 123, we could see a retest of 124.39. It's very tight right now. If it fails to do so, 121 could come. And as you can see, it's been downtrending since forming this distributive structure. It also has these imbalances down here around this like 120 areas. So in my opinion, it is looking overall a little bit more bearish. It could try to bounce tomorrow and retest 123, then reject and come down to 121. So we're going to watch that very carefully. As for Amazon, we were watching this very carefully to see if it could get above 135. Now that it got this small bounce, it is still once again trading kind of sideways around this range. I'm going to be watching it come down to 134, bounce off that, and kind of range trade between 134 and 136 for tomorrow. If it breaks 136, we could see 138. But for now, I'm just seeing some range trading. And last but not least, for Meta, we're looking for a bounce on Meta. And that's what we got as it formed this inverse head and shoulders. We called this out yesterday, and we got a nice bounce today. Now the question is, can Meta hold above 316 for an extended period of time? If it does so, it's going to get above 320. If it gets broken down, watch 312.5, 310, 308, and 307. How is this looking in my opinion? It looks to me like because it broke this high, it's holding up quite nicely. It's going to make an attempt to try to hold around this range. It made range trade for a little bit longer between 316 and 312, but the QQQ slowing down may slow it down as well. So it got this pump after we got that news that came out for Aapl. I'm going to wait and see what it does for the time being. I'm leaning in the direction of just some very choppy price action for the time being before it tries to retest 320. And I think it's going to trade sideways, test 320, and then slow down after that. But that's what I'm seeing so far, so watch these levels. In this video, I broke down some important levels to watch for and give you guys some predictions for most of the tickers out there. Now, I'm going to be watching Tesla's earnings call, or at least revisiting it later on. And that's all I have for today for you guys. I'm sorry I can't upload a video after Tesla's earnings call. We're going to wait and see what happens with it. And until then, I want the best for everyone. So thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, everyone. We will see what happens to Tesla, and I will inform you guys later on about how things go. Tesla's to the moon alongside the whole market as the long term is very bright, and peace out.